Changing your look is pretty easy. Changing your habits, a lot harder. But what if a single molecule could just completely collapse your entire personality only to let it reassemble itself from scratch? It sounds like something straight out of science fiction, right? But it's actually becoming a scientific fact. So today, let's dive into the science that's showing us just how fragile our sense of self really is.
No, really, just think about that for a second. Imagine waking up one morning and the person you thought you were is gone. Not because you decided to change, but because something deep inside your brain fundamentally rewrote the rules of the game. That's what we're exploring here, the science behind substances that can touch the very core of what makes you, you.
All right, so first things first, we have to challenge a core assumption that most of us just live with. This idea that our personality is some kind of stable, unchangeable thing. But what if it's not? What if the you that you know is way more fluid than you ever imagined?
Well, if you ask a neuroscientist, you aren't located in one single spot in your brain. Your personality is more like a complex circuit. It's a pattern of connections that gets stronger with every memory, every feeling, every single decision you make. And just like any circuit, it can be altered. It's actually kind of fragile.
I love this idea. At its most basic level, your mood, your desires, your entire being is just this delicate dance of chemicals. You've got dopamine for desire, serotonin for balance, norepinephrine for alertness, the whole shebang. So if you change that chemical dance, well, the whole performance changes with it.
So how does a single molecule actually rewrite that circuit we were talking about? Well, funny enough, some of the most powerful substances don't really add something new to your reality. They actually take something away. They shut down the part of you that insists on being you.
And this is such a crucial point because it gets misunderstood all the time. Psychedelics like psilocybin or LSD, they don't just invent new realities out of thin air. What they're really doing is temporarily disabling the brain network that's responsible for maintaining your normal day-to-day identity. And that network, it has a name. It's called the default mode network, or DMN for short. The best way to think about it is like the storyteller in your head. It's that constant narrator that links your past memories, your present self, and your future goals into one continuous story. It is, for all intents and purposes, the voice of your ego.
And this shows you the difference perfectly. When your DMN is on, your brain operates in these distinct, separate modules. But when it gets shut down, those boundaries just dissolve. Brain regions that hardly ever talk to each other suddenly start communicating like crazy. This is exactly why people report that feeling of oneness with the universe. The neurological boundary between me and everything else literally disappears.
Now, this process has some incredible therapeutic potential. Think about someone who's stuck in those rigid, repetitive thought loops of depression. Shutting down their DMN is almost like hitting a system reboot on a computer. It allows the brain to escape old, worn-out patterns and form new, healthier connections. The system literally restarts with a totally fresh perspective.
But not all of these substances work by dissolving the self. Some of them take a completely different approach. They force you to face it head-on, almost like you're having a conversation with your own inner ghosts.
And that's the key difference with a substance like ayahuasca. Instead of that dissolution of the ego we talked about, users often describe this intense, direct confrontation with their deepest fears, their repressed memories, all the hidden parts of their psyche they've been avoiding.
Ayahuasca isn't the only substance that forces this kind of confrontation, but the methods are really different. So while ayahuasca might make you face your inner demons, a substance like MDMA works differently. It kind of melts away the emotional armor that's protecting you from your own feelings. Okay, so here's the breakdown. Ayahuasca seems to physically reconnect the emotional part of your brain with the conscious part. It builds a bridge letting repressed memories surface. MDMA, on the other hand, just floods the brain with love molecules like serotonin and oxytocin. And what this does, crucially, is it disconnects the feeling of fear from a traumatic memory, which allows it to be processed without all the pain.
So, after the system reboots, or after the inner demons have been confronted, what's left? What does this rebuilt self actually look like? Well, the changes can be profound and, in a lot of cases, permanent.
Studies consistently find these huge shifts. People often become more open to new experiences, more empathetic, and their levels of neuroticism, things like anxiety and emotional instability, tend to drop significantly. But there is a flip side. Some people also report a kind of lingering sense of disconnection, almost as if their brain discovered this whole other version of reality and isn't quite sure which one to stick with now.
And then you have substances that go even a step further. Something like ketamine doesn't just alter your state of mind. It can trigger a process of rapid neurogenesis. It can physically grow new connections in your brain.
And get this, for a very brief window, sometimes just minutes, the brain becomes incredibly malleable. Neurons can literally sprout new branches, physically rewiring circuits that have been damaged by things like chronic stress. This isn't just a software update, it's a full-on hardware upgrade for your brain.
So all of this, it brings us to a really fundamental and maybe a little unsettling question about who we really are at our core.
The purely scientific view is that everything you consider to be you, your fears, your memories, your entire identity, it's all contained within synapses and neurotransmitters. It's a biological network that your brain is constantly updating, every single day, without you even realizing it.
And I think this idea really captures the heart of it. Maybe we aren't some fixed, unchanging soul. Maybe we're just a highly adaptive system, constantly tweaking its own programming to find balance, to find a way to feel at home inside the beautiful, chemical chaos of our own minds.
And if a single molecule can make us more empathetic, or braver, or even just emptier, then maybe the ultimate question isn't what changes us. Maybe it's why we feel the need to change in the first place.